The Xi Jinping-Vladimir Putin summit in Moscow generated reasonable concerns and expectations from the West, given the complex dynamics between China, Russia, and the Western countries. China's rise as a global power and Russia's invasion of Ukraine have reshaped the strategic landscape. Welcome to the channel, subscribe and let's dive in. Speculations arose that China might support Russia to counter the strengthening of the West. However, the historic summit did not confirm these expectations. The lack of visible action from China has left a sense of uncertainty and puzzlement regarding the initial reasons behind the concerns. Sovereignty, Ukraine, and Taiwan. China's complex official position on sovereignty sheds light on its priorities in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Despite a joint declaration emphasizing their friendship, China's actions reveal a divergence from Russia. China's abstentions in UN votes and opposing positions on condemning Russia's actions demonstrate a limit to their supposed limitless friendship. China seeks to shield Russia from consequences beyond the battlefield, reflecting its sensitivity regarding sovereignty, particularly regarding Taiwan. China's One China policy and concerns about any attempt to alter the status quo influence its stance on the conflict. Thus, any potential military aid from China to Russia would likely be driven by strategic considerations rather than ideological alignment, strengthening Russia to hurt the West. When considering the potential benefits of propping up Russia to put pressure on the West, it's essential to assess the return on investment and the feasibility of achieving the strategic victory. While there is an assumption that supporting Russia would drain Western supplies, the evidence suggests otherwise. If both Ukraine and Russia receive additional military support, it's unclear who would benefit more. Ukraine has struggled with corruption within the military ranks, which hampers its effectiveness in the battlefield. Russian forces, on the other hand, receive integrated training and require more resources to sustain their offensive operations. The impact of a military drain from the West would have to follow a complex pathway. The involvement of the US military in the region, particularly concerning Taiwan, has focused primarily on naval capabilities. As the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is land-based in Europe, the US Navy's role has been limited. Access to the Black Sea, where the Navy could potentially have an impact, is restricted by the Bosporus Strait, controlled by Turkey. Consequently, the US Navy has prioritized its focus on the east towards Taiwan and China. Transfers of military supplies to Ukraine primarily affect other branches of the Western forces, which would eventually require replenishment. This process is managed through a central political budget, which may strain naval resources when budgets become tight. The pathway through which China provides aid to Russia and gains a military advantage against the West is not straightforward. Furthermore, the feasibility of achieving the strategic victory on the political front through this approach is questionable. Leveraging support for Russia to force significant concessions from the West is uncertain, given the complex dynamics at play and the limited impact on the overall capabilities of Western forces in the conflict. Politically manipulating the West. The hope of causing divisions within NATO through the prolonged war has not materialized as anticipated by Putin. Instead, we've witnessed an increase in support for NATO membership among certain countries. Finland's support for NATO skyrocketed from 24% to 85% within a year, leading to its official entry into the alliance. Sweden has also expressed a desire to join NATO. Prolonging the war could potentially backfire and prompt other major powers, particularly non-Western countries like Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan, to align themselves with Western-oriented nations. The timing of Xi Jinping's visit to Moscow, alongside significant diplomatic meetings involving NATO and its Pacific partners, suggests the potential for a united front against external influences. Chinese policymakers must carefully consider these developments and their potential consequences as they shape their strategies in the region. Russia-China coalitional conflict. China's position within its coalition is at a critical juncture as it vies for leadership over Russia in the 21st century. While Beijing held the upper hand before the war, Russia's performance has solidified China's dominance. Although Putin may not openly recognize Xi as the head of the Eastern table, it is the prevailing reality. China's main concern now is to ensure that Russia remains a valuable partner post-war. Surprisingly, China may choose not to provide extensive aid to Russia to maintain its reliance and relevance. The West faces no casualties in the conflict, while Russia suffers significant losses. China's limited assistance could discourage Russia's costly and futile war efforts. However, Russia's poor performance could lead to internal challenges for Putin. China fears a Western-leaning leader might replace him, necessitating the prevention of Putin's isolation. Striking a delicate balance, China aims to influence the war's outcome favorably for Russia while maintaining stability and desired regional influence. China and economic growth. China's approach to the war in Ukraine involves a delicate balance of economic considerations. The Communist Party of China relies on a growing economy to legitimize its rule, making money a crucial factor. Western sanctions imposed on Russia have opened doors for China, allowing them to benefit from discounted energy trade. China has been purchasing oil and gas from Russia at significant discounts, capitalizing on the sanctions' impact. This trade advantage has resulted in a substantial transfer of cash from Moscow to Beijing, creating a strong incentive for China to prolong the conflict. However, China faces countervailing factors. Continued conflict raises the risk of a global recession, which could be detrimental in the post-pandemic era. Active participation in arming Russia also exposes China to potential Western sanctions. While arming Russia initially seemed beneficial for trade, China has likely re-evaluated its stance over time. Conditional sanctions have been emphasized by US policymakers, intending to strengthen Ukraine's bargaining position. By keeping sanctions conditional rather than permanent, Ukraine can leverage the losses that Russia has suffered during the conflict to achieve desired outcomes. Permanent sanctions, on the other hand, would make them a price for Russia's mere existence and reduce its disincentive to fight. In summary, China must navigate the economic and geopolitical implications of the war in Ukraine. While trade benefits are advantages, they must balance the need for a strong economy, the avoidance of a global recession, and the mitigation of Western sanctions. China's decision-making process is shaped by these complex considerations. Have sanctions become permanent? The plausibility of conditional sanctions in the ongoing war in Ukraine has significantly diminished over the course of the conflict. The question of who destroyed the Nord Stream pipeline remains unresolved, and various claims and reports are emerging. The lack of clarity surrounding the incident has led NATO to avoid discussions about Nord Stream to prevent politically awkward situations. Furthermore, even if the truth about the destruction of Nord Stream were known, the pipeline system is extensively damaged and cannot be quickly restored. Germany, a key recipient of Russian gas through Nord Stream, had been actively diversifying its gas suppliers and working on alternative energy sources, reducing its reliance on Russian gas. As the war continues, it becomes increasingly unlikely that Western businesses will rush back to invest in Russia. The lack of stability guarantees, uncertainty surrounding investment, and Russia's pariah status make it unattractive for Western companies. From a broader trade perspective, China stands to lose little of its economic gains if it withdraws from the military assistance programs and the war ends. The downsides and risks associated with continued involvement outweigh the benefits, despite any pleas from the Kremlin. This countervailing incentive aligns with the earlier discussion on permanent sanctions. If China withdraws and refrains from interfering, the expected outcome of the conflict shifts in favor of Ukraine. This can be seen as a consolation prize for Kiev. In summary, the unresolved nature of the Nord Stream incident and the challenges surrounding its restoration have diminished the likelihood of conditional sanctions. Western businesses are unlikely to return to Russia due to the lack of stability guarantees and Russia's pariah status. China's withdrawal from the military assistance programs would have minimal impact on its economic gains, further tilting the balance in Ukraine's favor. These factors contribute to the evolving dynamics and incentives in the ongoing conflict. Will things change? While the possibility of China providing aid to Russia in the ongoing war is not ruled out entirely, it remains uncertain. China's stance could change, particularly if concerns about Putin's leadership arise. Maintaining a positive relationship with Russia is crucial for Xi Jinping to ensure continued economic benefits. However, any significant transfers of aid would likely be difficult to conceal in the long run. While Chinese troop deployments in support of Russia seem unlikely, the concern is significant enough for Ukraine to engage with Beijing. Thank you for watching this informative and engaging video. Please show your support by liking, sharing and subscribing to my channel for more content like this. Stay tuned for the next video and take care.